Welcome to Modern Musings, conversations with the maiden, mother, and crone, looking at ourselves and the world through the lens of the 21st century. Hello, and welcome back. I am Amber Jones, and I'm here with my co-hosts, Kristen Hessler and Cindy Murray.
Hello.
And we're here to talk about something that we hold near and dear, and that is baking. And, you know, the holidays are coming up, especially Thanksgiving, and definitely Christmas. The best time of the year when we all get out our recipe books and go and spend way too much money at the store and make like months worth of sweets and then finally throw it away like in mid-February.
Oh no, we eat it all and get fatter and fatter and fatter and then spend the rest of the year trying to lose weight.
Right? No, honestly, like this time of year, whenever October 31st hits and then just what is it through Easter, right? It's just like sweets, right. Baking.
It really
sweets.
Is.
And then like and then finally you're done with it by the time May rolls around, and then you detox for a while,
and you're like, then, oh God, how am I going to fit in that swimsuit?
And then pumpkin spice season hits again, and then it's just like lattes and baking, pretty much. Yeah. So. And all three of us like to bake, so we're going to talk about baking this episode.
Yay!
Yeah.
I'm excited.
And I don't know, this is like a fun time for me, like coming up this year. It's going to be all of my husband's family under one roof for once, I guess. Well, I think we've done it before for Thanksgiving, so... One of like the big like things that I like to make around Thanksgiving is pie. You know, the good old pumpkin pie. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to bust out my grandma's pumpkin pie recipe. And then Jason is like, hey, I've got a pumpkin pie recipe. So now it's going to be War of the Pumpkin Pies this Thanksgiving.
Ooh,
yeah,
sample everybody's pumpkin pie.
I know.
Oh, you should have like a contest, like we did with the
like
barbecue.
a pumpkin pie baking contest.
We did
That'll
a few
be
years
fun.
ago. We had a barbecue cook-off, and everybody had to make a barbecue, and we voted on them and stuff, and we had sides and.
I like that a pie contest.
Yeah.
And definitely when I think of pie, I think of Thanksgiving because my family was really big on the pies as well.
Mine too.
My grandma with the pumpkin pie and the pecan pies. And then I remember one year for Thanksgiving, I swear my family, everybody brought a pie for some reason or two pies. And we had like 8 pies.
Oh, we've had that too. Yeah. My family is always big on pies, and my grandmother would make like cherry pie and mince pie, not mince meat, mince pie. Different.
What's the difference?
Well, mince meat has meat in it.
But see, I'd read like mincemeat pie, like the meat was
the
just
fruit pulp.
Yeah, the fruit pulp and stuff, not like
there
meat. There
are mince meat pies that have meat in them. My mother she called them mince meat pie, but now we call it just mince pie because people think, ew, you eat that pie with meat in it. But it's not. It's pears and raisins and apples and oranges, and it's so good.
Yeah, okay, I get it now. But
yeah,
I don't think I've ever had a meat pie.
There is.
Maybe I have.
Well, you've had a shepherd's pie.
Well,
probably,
yeah,
and a pot pie.
I mean, if you want to get technical,
it's really no different than that. But it's got a fruit base to it, or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a
like there are
chutney.
Pot pies as well.
So it's kind of like a pot pie, but it's a meat and
fruit pot
like
pie.
a chutney.
Fruit pot pie.
Think of it that way. Yeah.
With cinnamon in it.
Yeah.
I believe my grandma has made that before.
Now mine, like I said, has no meat in it, and it was my grandmother's. I have her recipe. We've made it before. Pumpkin is always a big hit. Mm-hmm. So, and I've done apple pies.
Yeah, apple pies.
Yeah. There's pies are just good. I like, you know
Pecan
what?
pies, apple pies.
You know what? It doesn't matter what kind of pie it is. I love the crust. I love pie crust.
That is the best part
My
of a
grandmother.
pie, like slightly burnt crust.
Well, not
Oh,
burnt,
and you
but
know
just
what, though?
really
Like,
crispy
I
and
like it
flaky.
when
Crispy,
it's
slightly
actually
burnt.
like pie crust versus like that whole like graham cracker
graham cracker.
crumb.
Now, I
I
do
mean,
No,
there's
like,
nothing wrong with
full-on
graham cracker
pie.
crumb. There's nothing wrong with that. But
No.
Well, I
I
have.
like the pie.
Yeah,
Right.
pie
Like
crust.
apple pie crust.
I like the pie crust pies, and when I grew up, I did. My grandmother used to roll out. She'd make her pie crust, and she'd roll out, and whatever scraps were left over, she would put them in the oven and put salt and pepper, or it's not salt and pepper. Sorry, sugar on them.
Uh-huh.
I'd eat it with salt and
Salt.
pepper too.
Well, I have eaten it with salt and pepper, but she put sugar and cinnamon on it, and it made like a little crispy, sweet, toasty cracker thing that you
used
could
to
eat.
make
You
that
know,
when I
like
was growing up, too.
like cinnamon sugar or cinnamon toast or something.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I was an adult and really poor and couldn't afford salty snacks, I would make pie crust, roll it out, cut it up, and put this like salt or seasonings or whatever on it. I like it with just plain salt, actually. And it just it makes a cracker, and they're really good. And you like cook them till they're like really brown and toasty, and oh, it's so good. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's my favorite part of a pie. I like the insides of a pie.
Mm-hmm.
I love the insides of a pie, but the crust is my favorite part.
I just eat the crust with like the little bit of pie
Oh, yeah.
stuck to it.
And I don't care if there's any fruit in the fruit pie. All I want's the juice on the, just something to
make
kinda
the crust a little bit soft.
softer. Yeah, not soft, just
Just a little
flavored.
bit soft, like
Flavored,
flavored, yeah,
yes.
a little dusting of.
But I like every kind of pie. I like custard pies, like the pumpkin pie and stuff, and I like vanilla pies and
Nope.
no
I do not like
I-
any meringues.
fruit.
You can
I
keep
like
that.
meringues. Yeah.
Nope. No high peaks for me.
No big. I like big
Now, I don't-
pies, and I cannot lie.
I do not
No.
like a
I
really
do not
tall
wanna eat
meringue.
Mile
I do
raw
not like
egg
pies
whites.
that have a really huge meringue
Unless
on
they're
them.
in
If it
cookie
has
dough.
meringue on it, it should not be any more
Then
quantity than the pie itself. Yes.
Right.
like
Wow, that's a
Norma's
math
Cafe
equation
with
right
like
there.
the big, huge
Yeah, I don't
meringues on those.
Yeah, it's
like
all
those. With like
meringue.
a 45-degree angle meringue.
Yeah,
No.
I don't like
Yeah.
that. I don't like
it
that.
either.
You know, I'm not a huge fan of it either. Normally, if I get a meringue pie, I just dig underneath and
Oh.
get like the.
I feel like I
cream or
make
whatever.
a good meringue pie, but my meringues are, maybe 2 inches tall at the most. They're, I fill up the pie pan with the inside, the pudding or the custard or whatever that goes in the pie. And then I whip whatever eggs were used to make the pie. The egg whites become the meringue. And,
Okay.
it only goes up, like if I put Cool Whip on top of it or something. So they're not super, super thick,
Yeah.
but I do like them. Yeah.
Have you ever been to Emporium Pies?
I have not.
They have a like a double decker apple pie there, and it's so huge. It is huge, and it's called Lord of the Pies. And that's my favorite thing to get there. And then you can buy a whole one, but they sell them by the slice. And the slice of pie for Lord of the Pies is so big that it looks like a mini little pie. It's
Oh,
so
wow.
big.
So when you say double decker, is it like
Another
another
Yeah,
layer of
like
crust?
two layers. Yeah, 2 layers of
Ooh, so there's a
crust
gooey
and two.
crust in the middle.
Oh,
Mhm.
wow.
Yeah, and 2 layers
Interesting.
of apples.
That's the
and
kind of crust I like when it's doughy.
it truly is.
We have
Lord
different
of the
pie
pies.
likes
Yeah.
over here.
Yeah.
We got different pie likes.
Yeah, definitely.
Like cobbler and stuff, I like it when it's like gooey and
well,
stuff. I don't want
I'm
it
okay with that too.
burnt and crusty. I don't
If
like
you're
the
talking
crusty
about
part.
cobbler, I prefer pie crust cobbler to like dump cake cobbler or crumble cobbler.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
of course.
I don't like the crumble.
They didn't used to call those cobblers. To me, when I was a kid, if it was cobbler, it was always a pie crust. But the difference of it from it being a pie was that it was made in a
big
Sheet
pan.
A big
Yeah.
sheet
Or
pan. Yeah, not a sheet
casserole
pan, but a
dish, I mean.
casserole dish or whatever. And that was really the only difference between that and a pie. So I don't know.
No, I mean, yeah, that's what I think of when I think of. Yeah, I don't really think of
Like
dump
those other,
cakes or crumbles
yeah,
as cobblers.
we called those dump cakes, or the crumble stuff. We would call it like apple crumble or strawberry or cherry
Mm-hmm.
crumble or whatever. Now there was one that was a ooey gooey. What did we call that? It's I'm trying to think. It's not. Is it impossible? Or I can't remember what it's called. My mom used to make a cobbler, and it was like magic crust or something like that. I don't remember what she called it. I'd have to go
Was
look.
it like when they pour the cake mix on top?
No, it's not cake mix.
Oh,
It's equal parts. Well, it was a cup of flour, a cup of sugar, a cup of milk, and a teaspoon, I think, of baking powder. I'm guessing. Don't try to cook this until I confirm. And I think they called it magic crust. Oh, Kristen said it is called magic crust. So, and what it is you take like your, she always did it with canned fruit. So she'd take like the large can of peaches or whatever, not with pie crust, with wet fruit. So it has to be wet fruit.
Oh,
there has
like fruit cocktail kind of wet fruit.
yes, or
Okay.
like in
Just
a syrup,
regular
or
canned syrup.
a
fruit.
can
Okay.
of syruped fruit,
Huh.
because it needs that syrup is what
Sugar.
makes it syrupy. Now you could probably do it with some water and butter or something. I'm not sure, with fresh fruit, but she always did it this way because the fruit's already soft. And then you mix that crust up and you just pour it over the top of it and cook it, and it like fills in the spaces between the fruit and expands, and it's like this fluffy, doughy, what you would like, Kristen, when you're talking about a doughy
Okay.
cobbler crust. And she did that with all kinds of fruit, and she did it with we had a mulberry tree in our backyard, and I know she did it with that. So I'm guessing she added, like butter, and maybe the fruit was wet from being washed, and then put butter and maybe some sugar in the fruit, just to yeah. But it's so good.
There's a lady
and it's really good with ice cream.
that I saw on YouTube that made a cast iron cobbler. And
Ooh, yeah,
we
that
tried to
sounds
make it
good.
when we went camping, but it was so dark that one time when we
Oh,
were in
yeah.
Arkansas.
Oh, yeah.
So we really couldn't
It was-
see.
it was
but
good, though.
really good. And it was like simple cobbler. It was like, flour, sugar, and butter, and
yeah.
and then fresh fruit and sugar.
Yeah.
I can't even, I'm pretty sure that was all that was in it. It was like stupid simple, like a cup and a cup and a cup or
Did
whatever.
it have oats in it?
No.
No. Okay. I'm thinking
No.
of another thing. Never mind.
But no, and you just cooked it in the, it was just like a crust on the top.
Right.
Not
like
on
a
the
crumble,
bottom.
sort of.
Hmm.
But not a crumble.
Yeah, because you just kind of like made the dough on top, but it wasn't doughy.
Right.
Yeah, it was like,
Yeah, I'm trying to remember.
I
Yeah.
don't know how to describe it. I don't know. But that was delicious. I liked that.
Yeah.
And that was with fresh fruit. I like the gooey fruit though.
Yeah.
I don't know. Cherry's my favorite. The
I
gooey
do love
cherry stuff.
cherries.
I could just eat that stuff. Like I'm like you guys are like the bread. I'm like just open a can of that stuff and give the. I like that like cherry cobbler
Yeah.
filling.
Yeah,
But-
I'm not a fan of the. I mean,
The filling. Yeah.
I'll eat it if there's a lot of bread, a
Yeah.
lot of crust.
Okay,
Yeah.
But
so
like,
I do like baked bread though. I'm not hating on the baked bread. Like
Oh, no, I
like,
love
I
baking
like
bread.
to bake banana bread.
Oh, yeah.
Oh
Quick breads.
man, me too.
Quick breads are a lot of fun.
Yes.
Yeah.
Banana bread's
Actually,
one of my
any
favorite
kind of bread
things
that
to make.
doesn't need to rise, I'm
Yeah.
all for it.
Yeah, I used to make a banana bread, pumpkin bread,
Ooh, zucchini bread and your cranberry bread's a
cranberry
bomb.
or orange
Blueberry
cranberry
bread. I
bread.
used to make
Oh,
blueberry
I bet
bread.
that's
Ooh, I
good.
bet that is
Yeah.
good.
For a school bake sale, well, I don't know. At the last school I worked at, I made my banana breads and sold them. And my ex-husband, he took one to work, and he And he came back and like his coworkers were like, "So does she sell those?" I never thought about it, but
Yeah.
it was like man, I'd have to like go back on my Pinterest and look because I took 2 different Pinterest recipes and mashed them together with whatever I had at home and it turned out that way.
Yeah, that's why I like banana bread because it still comes out good whether you use eggs
Or applesauce.
or applesauce or peanut butter or
cinnamon.
yeah, or just like
Nuts or no nuts.
yeah.
Yeah.
You can swap things out, and I've tried like lots of different variations, adding oats to it and all the different things like ripe bananas, overripe bananas.
Do you
I have
remember Martin
a
Gonzalez used to
recipe
make
for
that
an
peanut butter
upside
bread?
down banana.
Ooh.
Upside down banana bread where you like caramelize the bananas on top, kind of like pineapple
So
upside
you put
down.
like banana halves on the or
Uh-huh,
like slices
yeah.
on the bottom.
Oh, yum.
Yeah, I've done
Ooh,
that
I
before.
bet that's good.
Because one of my favorite cakes to bake, and this is because it was my grandma's favorite cake, is a pineapple upside down cake. And
I
I've
was waiting for
pineapple
you to
upside down.
mention that cake.
yeah, that's
your
like my
favorite cake.
famous. That's my famous cake. Everybody wants me to make them a pineapple upside down cake.
Well, you'll have to
I like
remind
it
me.
'cause
I'll
it's
make you one for
gooey.
your birthday or something. Ooh.
But
I used to
yeah,
make those all the time.
that's a Joy's favorite cake too. So every time she comes to visit, I have to make her a pineapple upside down cake
I do
because
love
she
those.
loves my pineapple upside down cake. And I've made my grandma pineapple upside down cupcakes before. I've made them vegan before. I've made them
Interesting.
dairy free before.
Yeah.
I've made I've made a pineapple upside down rum cake before.
Ooh.
So I've definitely that's like probably my baking specialty other than my cookies. Is my pineapple upside down cake.
Cool. Yeah, I just like to bake. I like to bake cookies. I like to bake. I mean, back in the day, we've talked about this before, like during the holidays, we would make cookies and candy and stuff for the holidays, and that was, one of the things that I would do is do a whole lot of baking. I always did a lot of baking. That was from the time I was about 4th grade or so, I started baking cookies, and I would just bake cookies all the time for our family because I like to do it. I don't do it as much anymore because I'm always busy, it seems like. I don't have the time to do it.
I feel that too.
Yeah.
I need to bake more.
And and I need people to eat it. It's hard being, single widow, here at the house. There's nobody to give it to, and when my kids were younger or when we socialized with other people and we weren't all so conscientious of our weight and stuff, I could
that's
cook
another thing is
Yeah.
like the weight thing.
Yeah, I used to cook I
Right.
used to bake every Friday. I would find something to bake, whether it was a fresh loaf of bread or some cinnamon rolls or cookies or something. And then I'd share it with our friends that we saw over the weekend, and then it would be gone. And, I wasn't stuck with it. And then, when we quit hanging out with the friends over that weekend or whatever, then it hung around a little too long, and then, and everybody started watching their weight, and it just, yeah.
And then low carb diet. Although I do like to experiment with the low carb baking thing, but
I've done that, and we've had episodes about that as well.
yeah, we have had past episodes about low carb baking, and well, we're not talking about that. We're just talking about like
Baking in
straight up
general, yeah.
awesome baking.
Yeah.
So, Kristen, what's your favorite thing to bake other than bread?
So you guys are talking all about the sweet stuff, but to be honest, like my favorite cooking method is baking.
Right.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
kind
not
of
just
impatient.
sweets. Yeah,
I'm impatient, and I also have a lot of ADD, so I tend to like step
I
away
do.
from the
I like-
stove and stuff.
I like
so
to do things where I dump it in a casserole
I'm
and
either
leave. Yeah.
cooking stuff on the grill because it's real quick, or I like to make stuff in the oven, or of course crock pot.
Crock pot, yeah.
But that's like an oven on the countertop to me. So like as I think about it like
Yeah.
baking. So for me, you know, my favorite things to bake are like the savory things. I love doing like sheet pan dinners. Those to me are like brilliant because if you get the right temperature and the right time with the things on your sheet pan, you can put all the food together.
Mm-hmm.
And when you bake it, they kind of like the oils and flavors kind of marry a little bit together. One of my favorite things that Travis, introduced me to is like a pork chop. It's rosemary pork chop and chickpeas. And it has chickpeas and onions, and
You're gonna have to send me that recipe.
it is so good. And you, it's like got fresh rosemary. And you know me, I'm not a big rosemary person, but the chickpeas like bake in the oven and they get like almost like crispy fried because they're tossed with olive oil. And then you got like your pork chop, and there might be something else like sweet potatoes tossed in there too, like little tiny cubes of sweet potatoes or carrots, one of the two. And that's like, I love that one. And then there's another one where you take like the chicken sausage from like Sprouts. And, you can just chop up some vegetables.
Yeah.
And
one of my favorite things is the Brussels sprouts in the oven.
Brussels
Oh,
sprouts,
yeah.
onions,
Roasted.
bell
And you
peppers,
toss.
broccoli. Oh, charred
Smashed
broccoli.
potatoes.
No, I like the charred
Smashed
Brussels.
potatoes are good too.
The charred Brussels sprouts with a little toss of
Soy
soy
sauce.
sauce on it the last 5 minutes. Oh
Yep.
my gosh.
So I like to do that, and then when
Asparagus also in the oven.
Oh yes.
yes, and green beans too are really good too. When my roommate and I used to live together, we would get like a big family pack of chicken, and we would use the McCormick Grill Mates seasoning packets, and we would season our chicken like and bake a whole like 9x13 of chicken breasts.
Oh yeah.
And eat that. And so that's when I think of baking, like, yeah, there's the sweets and stuff, but I think of like baking dinner. So I really do enjoy like the winter foods when I can really like heat up the oven because I love baking chicken.
A roast leg of lamb, or a nice big ham, or a turkey, or
yes, Travis and I get the turkeys at the grocery store. We don't eat them for holidays. We just get them, and then we'll bake a turkey, and then we'll have baked turkey for like forever, and then we freeze what we don't eat. But it's nice to have it like when you get them on sale, and it's fun to bake them because you like do something different every time and like experiment with it. And as long as you're baking the time right, then you can really get some like perfect crispy on the outside, juicy on the inside, and then whatever flavor you want it to be. One of the other things that we've recently discovered was baked chicken wings. Because I've had like 1,000 different ways to bake chicken wings, but the skin on the wings, I'm a texture person. Like it has to be like exactly what I'm expecting for texture. If it's not, it grosses me out. And like chicken skin has to be crispy. If it's flippity floppity, it grosses me out. I can't eat it.
I agree.
And then it's like wasted.
Crispy chicken skin for sure.
Because if it's not crispy, then it's like fatty, it's chewy, it's messy, and then I don't want to eat it. So, and then you waste like a lot of chicken because then I get kind of grossed out. So this recipe, you take like salt, pepper, and I think it's like garlic powder or onion powder, maybe both, and a little bit of paprika, and then baking powder. Not baking soda, but baking powder.
Which has baking soda in it.
Right, but
but yeah.
So baking powder, and you mix it up, and it's like, like 3 tablespoons or something like that for a 4-pound bag of wings. And then, so you toss your chicken in that. So it has like this light dusted covering, and then you put your chicken on like a wire rack, and then so like these are wings, like the small ones, and you bake it for like an hour, and every 20 minutes you turn it so they get turned over back to their original side. It takes about an hour to bake it, but you can go like an hour and 20 minutes even if you like it like extra crispy, and it makes it like fried chicken.
Wow.
And it is so good.
That does sound good.
It's really good. And so that's kind of like one of the things we've been experimenting with is like perfecting it, like
Uh-huh.
how long we put it in, and like now we're like, okay, could we add like other seasonings to it to give it like a little kick, or we could brine the chicken, you know, because then you can get a little bit more flavor in the meat.
That recipe that you just named off sounds an awful lot like a white bearded gentleman from Kentucky.
Except he has flour in his crust, and it's fried.
Yeah,
but yes,
well, actually, it's not fried; it's roasted, which is
pressure cook
fried.
So it is
yes.
fried, but
Well,
it's under the
it's
pressure cooker.
cooked. Yeah.
But there's oil.
Have you ever done a paper bag chicken?
I have not.
Uh-huh. Those are a lot.
No.
Those are really good. That's a really great way to roast a chicken. So you take your whole chicken and, you know, you clean it out and get all the gizzards and stuff out of it. And you could use Crisco, or I like to put butter on it. So you grease the whole thing down with butter, season it really well with whatever seasonings you want to use on it, and then put it inside a paper bag and roll the paper bag up and put it in the oven and cook it. There's all kinds of recipes for it on the internet, but it makes the best roasted. I think there's another one where you grease the inside of the bag too, and so that it makes like a sealed, so it's kind of cooking in its own steam kind of thing. But yeah, that's a really cool way to do that.
So what's your, I know like we talked about kitchen gadgets, and the oven is kind of restricting on what you gadget with when you bake, but what's your like go-to baking utensil or gadget or pan, or do you have like a thing like you're just like, I can't live without this?
Wow, that's hard. Mine would probably be rubber spatulas. I love rubber spatulas for mixing, you know, cake batter or whatever. I'd love to say it was my stand cake mixer, but I don't even own one of those. So I actually use, and my other go-to item here, and my daughter is pointing at me because that's what she was getting at. I have a General Electric hand mixer that I bought with S&H green stamps while I was pregnant with Kristen. So that was more than 40 years ago.
So you have
we're going on 41 years now.
41 years
41
of
years
mixer.
Of a mixer that was bought with S&H green stamps, okay? And I bought it so that I could mix pudding because I had cravings for pudding, and that was a healthy way to get milk, you know, while I was pregnant. So that was what I snacked on sometimes. And I've had that mixer it's just a little hand mixer with the detachable little beaters on it. My husband had to replace the cord on it. He found a replacement cord online about 2-3 years ago because it died in the middle of making our Christmas cookies. And I nearly cried. And he found it and ordered it so we could finish doing our thing.
That's how special this hand mixer is. Cause instead of just getting a new one, my dad went on the run looking for a plug.
He knew how important that mixer was to me. And like I said, I've had it 41 years, and I do everything with it. You know, I've made, you know, mashed potatoes, and I've made cookies, and I've made pies, and I've made cakes and deviled eggs. everything I use it more than I use my food processor or my blender or anything else.
Have you tried it to shred chicken?
No, I have not.
Have you, Amber?
Huh. Oh, the hand mixer? No, I have not.
People like,
now I've put it in my food processor before, but
I've been seeing people use it to shred like chicken breasts after they pull them out of the pressure cooker or the crock pot, and it takes like a minute, and they just and like zip through it.
Wow,
and it just shreds
interesting.
it.
Yeah,
you just made me think of that.
Oh wow! But
I know that's not baking, but
that combined with my rubber spatulas, and I will say that my original Tupperware mixing bowl that that Kristen melted on the stove, and I still used for many years. I kept using it after she melted the bottom of it.
I melted the bottom on
It was
the
like a
hot
stand.
stove,
Yes.
and then I melted the top by putting a hot pan on top of it.
Right, so it was all
got it for
jacked
both.
up, and
Yeah.
and I kept using it until it got a crack that ran down the center of it, and I had to toss it, and now I have a Pampered Chef glass one, so that that got replaced, but I almost cried when it cracked too, but not like my mixer.
Yeah. What about you, Amber?
Oh, baking tools. It's so funny because I do have a stand mixer and I have a hand mixer, and I still opt for just using my muscles to
I was
mix.
like, do you have a sit
You know
mixer?
what? I use a fork to do eggs.
Like,
I do.
honestly, like,
Yeah, I totally do.
when I make my Christmas cookies, I like hand pump it. Like, I'm just like,
Yeah.
and I'll walk around the house just like,
With
mixing,
with
yeah.
the bowl under your
You know,
arm.
like
and
like the
walking
old
mixer.
TV show, yeah. Like
Yeah.
I walk around the house and like mix, and it's so funny because I have these like tools and stuff to mix, and I still just prefer my arm.
Yeah. Like I said, if I'm just whipping eggs, I'll just use a fork and do it. But when I was a kid, my mother had a hand mixer, literally a hand mixer. It was like my electric hand mixer, but it had a crank on it.
Oh,
remember hand?
yeah.
And you crank that little wheel, and then that's.
Oh, those are annoying.
I
I've
love the
used
sound
that
they
to
make.
make meringue and whipped cream and everything else. I swear you feel like your arm is gonna break and fall off. But I've done it.
Yeah.
So oddly enough, I have a flour sifter that gets used more often than like
Really?
a lot of things in my house. Yes.
Interesting.
And it's funny because I don't do a lot of things with flour, but if I bust out the flour, I always sift it. Like, I don't know. Everything just like
Yeah, I have one of
better when
those I don't
sift it.
use either.
Yeah, and mine's just like a really cheap one, and I just.
Oh, you know what? Another thing I have that I love, and my husband was the one that discovered it. We were always trying to grind up spices and stuff, and he got a new coffee grinder, and so he repurposed the coffee grinder to do spices, to do ground spices in.
Oh.
And I love being able to fresh grind spices or sesame seeds, and
See,
make,
I have a hand grinder
Oh,
for
yeah.
that, like the old school.
well,
like,
I have a molcajete, where
yeah.
you grind it in the stone too. But for just like doing a quick little, throw some dill in there and whip it up real fast, that you can't beat it. It's really cool.
One thing that I did finally buy that I seem to use a lot for some reason, because I didn't realize that I used a lot of fresh squeezed lemon and stuff, is that I finally bought like one of those lemon squeezer juicer things, like
Like
they
the little
use.
electric one or the hand?
No,
squeeze
like
one?
the little hand. Like,
Oh
yeah.
those are nice.
that you flip it and you juice with, and all of these years I've never had one. And I finally, like the other day, I was walking around Home Goods and I'm like, hey, this one's cute, and I bought it because normally I just like hand squeeze that stuff too.
I used to
I'm
do
very
that,
weirdly old school apparently and I have all these kitchen gadgets that I don't use.
I used to have a hand, or like an orange juicer, where you put the little thing on there, and there was several years ago, the grocery store was giving away, you could buy different, you got little tickets, little stamps, and you could collect them and buy some different appliances. And one of them, I thought I was getting a juicer. I've been saving them up and thinking, I'll take my fruit and juice it, and make popsicles or, use it that way or something. And then when it came time to go buy it, I realized it was a citrus juicer. And I was like, okay, I've already saved up the thing, so I'll just go ahead and get that. I don't know how much I'll use it, but I don't use it to do orange juice with. I use it to do lemons and limes. and I use that
Mm-hmm.
all the time. It's like a little electric.
Oh yeah, I love it. I love it so much. I
Yeah.
asked for the same one for Christmas.
Yeah, yeah. It's
And now
really
I love
nice.
them
That
all.
one, if you really use a lot of juice, that's a great way to do it too. I do have one of those little ones like you have too, and then I have the one that's just a little glass jar with the stationary lid, and
Mm-hmm.
you do the hard work with your arm, to turn that orange on there. But I've used
Yeah,
them
I'm looking
all.
forward to using it this year to make those orange crackle cookies.
Oh yeah.
It's like I don't know like why they do it. I think you dust them with powdered sugar and then you bake them and then they like explode
Uh huh.
when they're
Yeah.
baking and they make like these cracks.
Yeah.
So I do like baking those. I'm not a big fan of baking though cookies because like remember I said I was impatient. I like mixing the cookie dough, but by the time I'm done mixing, I'm like I don't want to go back and forth to the oven. But thankfully, Raina's getting older and she likes to do the oven part.
Well, and you and I have tag teamed that too
because you don't mind doing that part
yeah,
either.
because I'll do the oven part, and she'll mix it all up for me, and then I'll dish them up.
I'm like I'll
Um,
make the dough.
But
or
you got to
whatever,
make
but-
those. What were they with the Kerrygold, the Irish, the
Oh,
shortbread
those are
cookies?
like shortbread
Oh,
cookies.
my gosh,
Yeah,
those
are really
so
good too.
Yeah, those were delicious.
I like
too.
exploring different recipes as long as they're not too complicated.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean,
you're
I
good
made
at
a
that about
ganache
finding
cake.
new recipes that are
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
And I'm more of a
Make the same old
I want to make the same
trusted-
thing. I want it and I want it to be the same
Old
every
Faithful.
time I do it. I want that consistency. Yeah.
So I'm thinking about making some of those,
Uh-huh.
that I had made like just once. Maybe try and make them again.
Yeah, yeah.
This year. What about you, Amber? You have any plans for what you're gonna make this fall and winter season, like baking wise?
Oh gosh. Well, there's always some kind of experiment that I want to do. Well, I talked about making the pies for Thanksgiving. I'd like to do some kind of Halloween baking because it's
Ooh.
coming up in a week or so, a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
One year I made brain cupcakes.
Okay, tell us how you accomplished that.
Well, I mean, you just make cupcakes and then you put the frosting on top to look like brains.
Well, how do you make that's what I'm trying to get at.
Oh.
How do you make it look like a brain?
How do you make it look? Well, mine didn't look like brains. They looked like,
Intestines.
bugs.
Oh, bugs. Oh.
But I really tried to squeeze the icing just right to where it looked like a squiggly brain, and then they just turned out. They just looked like bugs.
Okay.
But I do have some fun like shaping type things, and then I did buy like some skull head cakelets. So I was thinking about making like either some skull shaped cookies or some skull shaped little cakes.
Oh man.
Oh.
Yeah.
You could do like skull, like painted skull.
Oh,
With-
like
Dios de
Sugar
los
skulls.
Muertos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, that would be so pretty.
Yeah, I want to. I'm not like I love baking, but like the decorating part is so tedious sometimes.
it's a practice thing. You have
yeah.
to do a lot of it to
Last
good
year
and
I
fast.
made a black velvet cake for my husband.
I remember.
Yeah,
we talked about it on the
Yeah, we did
podcast.
talk about it on the podcast. And so this year I want to use my like little skull baking pans and make something cool. Either
you
that
want
or
a
they're
tip
like
for the icing?
Hmm?
Do it when it's cold. So don't try to ice your cupcakes.
Oh,
or
while
your
they're hot.
cakes while
Yeah.
they're
Oh
warm.
yeah, no.
Bake them one day and then pop them in like the freezer or the fridge. I always froze my
I used to
cakes,
freeze mine, yeah.
and then I would pull it out and frost it, and it would be like thawing out while it
Well,
was frosted.
I think I used the wrong icing or frosting or something
Mm-hmm.
whenever I was making those brain cupcakes because I was trying to style it just right and I didn't have the proper equipment.
Mm.
I made like a piping bag out of a bag and
Oh,
stuff
I've
like
done
that.
that too.
So,
Yeah, yeah.
it's easy just making like the cupcakes, but then like, the frosting and stuff. And then it's the same with like the cake balls. I always mess up when I'm like dipping the frosting and stuff. But I mean, cake balls are good.
They are.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have to be pretty to be edible.
Yeah, they
That's,
are.
you know what? I love making chocolate dip pretzels, and sometimes they look so ugly when I make them. But if you just sprinkle them with like
Oh yeah,
sprinkles or nuts or something,
sugar
then
or
you don't
something,
see
yeah.
like the weird looking pretzels. They don't look so bad.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's my baking. No,
That's not even baking,
I
Kristen.
know. I know.
I should experiment more and then just take the stuff to work and leave it in the staff room.
Oh yeah. See, then you can
Oh,
have
there
a
you go.
have
Yeah.
a piece or two. Let Jason have a
Yes.
piece or two, and then
Get rid of
take
the
it
rest.
to
Get rid of it. Yeah.
Give it to
Yeah.
See, I don't
hungry
have anybody
teachers.
to get rid of stuff to.
I
so,
know,
yeah.
right? See, we don't even work in the office, so I can't even take it to
Yeah,
work.
me either.
But I remember I actually have some coworkers that have asked, if I'll be making Christmas candy again. And I'm like, I haven't brought Christmas candy in like 6 years
Well,
to
and
work, but they remember.
well, and it's like, I was talking to somebody about this the other day because I was talking about how I like to make all that stuff at the holidays. And then I always have a whole lot left over and I want to get rid of it. And I was talking about, I think I was talking about that to one of our friends yesterday while we were Zooming. But anyway, I was like, I don't have anybody to give it to because I can't even send it home with Steven anymore. He would take it to his office and get rid of it, after the holidays. But he doesn't work in an office anymore either. So it's like, what do you do with it?
Yeah.
So,
And I'm like the guilt person, and I'll be like, well, nobody wants to eat this, so I'll eat all of it
because you don't want it to go to
My
waste.
husband doesn't even like care.
And your
about
daughter doesn't
sweets.
care either. I know.
Yeah, she's like, she wants chocolate cupcakes without icing.
Yeah.
Or chocolate chip
And
cookies plain.
and my husband was
and I don't want
like, he
either of those
became a health conscious, I'm not going to eat any sweets because they're bad for me.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. We'll
I
just
don't
have
know.
to keep baking chicken and
Yeah, well, yeah. I am going to bake for the holidays.
Mhm.
I'm thinking we're going to keep our holiday tradition
Yep.
as much as we can, have lots of snacks to munch on while we play our games and
Yeah.
stuff. And so I may make a bunch of those little quick breads and have some of those to eat
Mhm.
on, and some cookies and the candy, and of course we'll do our big Thanksgiving dinner. And
Yeah, I didn't make my cookies last year. I was getting married. I didn't really do a lot of things last year because I was
right,
so focused on
you were
the
getting
wedding.
you were doing all that, and we were making all the stuff for the wedding. So
So I
Yeah.
didn't really do a lot of like my traditional things. So I think that one thing I am going to make this year is my cookies that I make every year.
Yeah. Those
And
were a big hit when you left them here.
yeah, everybody likes my cookies. I used to make them and give them to people at work as well, and people would ask me about my cookies, kind of like your work candy and stuff like that. But I haven't done that in a couple of years. But that's probably, other than the pineapple upside down cake, that's probably
in your pies, yeah.
my favorite thing to make are my cookies.
Cool.
Yep,
Cool.
I'm looking forward. I've got 2 turkeys in the oven, and I have 2 pork shoulders in the oven.
In the oven.
In
In
the
the
Are they in the
freezer
oven right now?
They're in the cold oven.
The freezer oven?
Yeah, they're ready to go
Pork
in the
shoulder.
oven. Yeah, I got pork shoulder, and it makes a really good like pseudo brisket kind of thing for like tacos and stuff.
Yeah, I
Um,
have some pork loin at home.
I like baking those too. Oh, you can wrap it in like prosciutto.
Yeah.
Oh, yum. Or wrap
Oh,
it in bacon.
Jason and I make a lot of baked nachos.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah,
Yes.
like we layer them and just pop them in the oven. We had
Yes.
that a while back.
Oh, you want to know one of my other favorite baking tools? So
Your sheet pan.
Your sheet
it
pan.
is my sheet pan. Oh, have I talked about my sheet pan before? Funny thing is, when I worked in the restaurant, we had these giant sheet pans, and there was like a full sheet pan, and then there was this half-size sheet pan. And I loved those. We would put bacon on them. We would do potatoes, all the baked potatoes for the whole restaurant on a sheet pan. There was like 20 of them. And I loved those sheet pans because they're so industrious. They're not like these non-stick ones.
Oh, I hate these non-stick
I
things.
know, I do too.
They warp and they pop and ugh.
Travis, I took him to Lubbock with Raina when we were dating, and I was taking him to all of our favorite thrift shops that my grandma used to take us to. And I took him to the one over by O.L. Slayton.
Oh,
Q.
the one in the bowling alley. No?
No, that's the antique mall.
Oh, okay.
It's over by there, though, because it is over by O.L. Slayton.
Okay.
But
I think I know which one.
Yeah.
Was it the Lighthouse for the Blind?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
That one. And we were walking around in there, and they had a restaurant sheet pan that was like almost brand new.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, oh, for $5? Yes. So I took it home, and we have been using that ever since. And it's perfect because whenever you get like the parchment paper that comes in the sheet, it like fits perfectly on it. And nothing sticks to it. It doesn't have like Teflon on it,
So it's like
not
aluminum,
poisoning
right?
me. Yeah, it's just a silver sheet pan.
Yeah.
And that is probably one of my favorite things. And I use it for all kinds of stuff. Like if I have to take a casserole to Mom's house, I always just put my casserole dish on it.
Oh, yeah, that
and
way it
carry
doesn't spill.
Or if I need to stack a bunch of casseroles in the fridge, I just stick it on top and put another one on top. I love it. And so that's probably one of my favorite other favorite baking things is my sheet pan, because you can go from chicken to cookies to potatoes to whatever.
Yeah. Very good. Very good.
Yeah. So, guys, what are we talking about next week?
Next week,
We're talking about dare or don't.
oh.
Instead of like, I guess, truth or dare or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, dare or don't. Yeah.
Okay.
This may be troublesome.
Yeah, who knows? It might be really stupid. Who knows?
Okay.
Well, listeners, we want to hear from you. Go check out our Facebook page and check out our blog and Heard It on the Podcast blog. And type us a note, send us an email, and let us know your favorite recipes and what you like to bake. Because we'd love for you to send us some recipes, man.
That's right.
For sure. Send us some recipes. Let us know what you like to bake.
Yeah.
And we will talk to you guys next week.
All right.